Who's our central bank? Federal Reserve. Okay. What was the bias of the Federal Reserve before 1980? Which is a lousy question, but means you can give me a lousy answer. So, what was the bias of the Federal Reserve? What was their shtick? What were they trying to accomplish before 1980?
Full employment?
Thank you. It wasn't such a bad question because it was an excellent answer. Full employment. And how did they attempt to, what was their way of doing it? And here's to show you.
Lower interest rates.
Easy money.
Easy money. Well, these are good questions because they're the right answers. Okay. Now, let me ask you this question. What do you mean by easy money?
Controlling the money
Low
supply.
interest rates.
Low interest rates. Okay, low interest rates. Now, why will low interest rates lead to full employment? Jeff, what was the name of that movie?
What about Bob?
What About Bob? Remember? Remember the therapist? Remember, he blows up the therapist's house, right? But before he does that, what is the therapist? You haven't seen that movie? It's funny.
Yeah.
What is it? The therapist tells him, baby steps, remember? Baby steps, Bob, baby steps. So let's go by baby steps. How does easy money, low interest rates, right? Synonyms, and we know what those are, compared to, how does that lead to full employment? Now, I think you all know, but I want you to articulate it in baby steps. Step one, low interest rates. Okay, what's step two?
Expansion.
Well, expansion is,
Spending. Low cost.
now you sound,
More loans. More loans.
okay, excellent. Low interest rates, more lending. More lending to whom?
Manufacturers.
Okay, businesses and when we say consumers, we mean especially
Durable goods.
durable goods such as
Housing.
automobiles and residential construction. Okay, and when there's more spending on the production of new homes and the manufacture of automobiles and business investment in more plant and equipment, when all that takes place, then of course there's more economic activity, right? More production, more employment, and the economy expands. Everybody gets it? Those are the baby steps. Now, why might that lead to higher prices? Steve?
Demand's going up.
Well, demand's going up, exactly. So we're talking about demand going up, but now my question is, so what? Why will more demand lead to higher prices?
Cost of labor increases.
Okay, now we get to an interesting phenomenon. There's two answers. Let's say you just asked the question the way I did, and Steve says, well, demand went up. Well, the other half of that really is, anytime demand exceeds supply at current prices, prices rise, right? So it's demand and supply. If demand exceeds supply at current prices, prices have to go up. Now, under what circumstances can demand exceed supply? Now that's an interesting question, because let's say, I'm talking about the economy, and let's say the economy is just me. And let's say I produce $1 worth of goods. If I produce $1 worth of goods, how much should I earn? $1 worth of income. And if I earn $1 worth of income, how much should I be able to purchase? $1. So there's $1, $1, $1, $1. No room for rising prices, correct? But if I have the ability to borrow $1, then I can earn $1, and now I can spend $2. So what happens? I have $2 to spend on that $1 worth of product, and pretty soon the $1 worth of product is selling for how much? $2, and there you have it, right? So that's how the demand works in, because what Steve just said is rising demand, sure. But remember what fueled the rising demand. You just said it was
Easy money.
easy money, which in other words, the borrowing and spending. See how we've worked it in? The borrowing and the spending of the borrowed funds leads to it, right? Okay, now, flashback to this morning. Remember what we did before lunch. What led to higher prices when we talked about higher prices before lunch?
Cost. Higher cost. Higher cost.
Higher costs. So if you ask the business manager, why did you raise your prices? What's the business manager likely to say? I raised my prices because my costs went up. Correct? But let me ask you this, going back to baby steps, what are the baby steps that lead to higher costs? Using the data we looked at this morning, that is the statistical indicators we looked at this morning, what leads to higher prices? Let's start. Number one, I'll give you a hint. Number one, production increases. Now remember, this is old economy. We're going to look at old economy now, right? Okay, production increases. And if production increases, what happens to capacity utilization? Up. And if capacity utilization is pushed to the max, what happens to productivity?
Decline.
Falls. And if productivity falls, what happens to unit labor costs?
Increase.
And that's what management sees. And competition permitting, management will raise prices. And now you've gotten supply and demand. Does everybody understand? You start with demand going up, but you go by baby steps right through the production process to the engineering problem of when productivity falls, costs must rise. Does everybody, okay? Everybody got it? All right, now, back to the Federal Reserve. Sir, the bias of the Federal Reserve before 1980 was?
Full employment.
Okay, full employment. Now, so, and that bias leads to the Federal Reserve always trying to keep interest rates down. But we understand by looking at this chart that did the Federal Reserve always keep inflation down?
No.
Clearly not.
No.
So, in the words of Milton Berle,
What happened?
what happened? Okay. So, you remember Uncle Milty. Okay. So, what happened? Okay. Now, here's where it gets a little tough. Here's where it gets a little tough. So, just let me try to articulate this as clearly as I can. The Federal Reserve pursues an expansionary policy. Easy money, low interest rates. And because of the low interest rates, what happens to demand? Remember our baby steps. If demand shoots up, remember how we did it? We said low interest rates, a lot of lending, autos, residential construction. Remember? Okay. So low interest rates, a lot of spending because there's a lot of borrowing. Now, if there's a lot of demand because of this, what's going to happen to prices? A lot of demand, a lot of production, prices will rise. Okay, now if the prices rise a lot, what's the Federal Reserve going to have to do? The Federal Reserve now is going to have to step in and pursue a contractionary policy which raises rates in order to dampen spending and stop the inflation, right?